Welcome. In this video, we will discuss about how India molds the E20 fuel. So basically E20 fuel is ethanol in which like in your normal petrol, the blend is now going to be 20%. So that is the idea. This program is in fact the component of the ethanol blending program of the present government, where the blending percentage of ethanol has to be increased in a phased manner till 2030. So that is again one of the things which has been now put forward by the government of India to increase the blending percentage to 20%. So in this video we will discuss about this. We will also discuss the national biofuel policy. So that is also one thing that we will discuss in this video. So let's start. So we're going to adopt the E20 fuel, which is a blend of 20% of ethanol and gasoline as an automobile fuel. So this is the idea. This is something which has been mooted by the government as of now, that going forward it's going to be E20 fuel, which should be proposed or which should be promoted. The government has 10% blending target for mixing ethanol with petrol by 2022 and 20% blending target by 2030. So this is the idea that going forward by 2022, which means in next 2 years the percentage has to be 10%. So in the mixing, in the ethanol mixing program, blending program, it's going to be 10% in the next 2 year itself, and in the upcoming 10 years it has to increase to 20%. So this is what has been decided by the government very recently. Now coming back to the topic, what is actually ethanol? So ethanol is something which is commonly made from biomass such as corn and sugarcane. So this is something, again, you can understand, it is a alcohol only, which is generally found in the alcoholic beverages only. But over here the ethanol which we are talking about, which is going to be blend, is coming from a biomass of corn or sugarcane. Like when the corn or the sugarcane crop, they are grown, the kind of waste which is coming out from them or the byproduct, the biomass from that could be used to generate the ethanol. Bioethanol is a form of renewable energy that can be produced from the agricultural feedstock. So various agricultural feedstock could be used for generating the bioethanol, and which is also a form of renewable energy. Renewable energy is the like the branch of energy where we could over and over regenerate it. So that is the idea of having the renewable energy as opposed to the non-renewable energy like your coal sources. So we already know there has been multiple report which says that in India coal is still the largest component which produces the electricity, and along the largest producer of electricity, it is also the largest emitter of CO2, which is a very major CO greenhouse gas, which eventually lead to your global warming. So considering everything, bioethanol is also proposed by the government going forward. Now basically let's try to understand what kind of benefits the E20 could actually brought to. So first of all, it will increase the farm income. How? It will become an additional source of income. So for an example, the refineries which is going to now produce the bioethanol, they could reach out to the farmer and ask for the live feedstock from the corn or sugarcane, all these things, and that will serve as an additional income for the farmer. So this is also important, that it will serve as an additional source of income for farmer. It will help in reduction of import bills. How? We know that India import a lot of crude oil. So crude oil is the major component of India's import bill. So if you look at from that perspective, if we are able to blend ethanol and it will be able to reduce the quantity of crude oil, then this will eventually lead to reduce the import bill, which is very huge. So India is actually a country whose import bill way exceed its exports. So in that regard, if we are able to use the blending in a right proportion, we would be able to reduce the import bill as well. Then reduction in vehicular pollution. So that is also one of the thing. You must have seen the news in which the Delhi get into smog during the Diwali times. There are multiple reasons also for that, but one of the major reason is also vehicular pollution. So from the vehicular exhaust, gases like CO2 and NOx, which is your nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxides, your hydrocarbons, all these get released. Mixing with the ethanol will eventually lead to reduction in the emission of CO2 emission as well as of various hydrocarbons as well. So this is again something going to be important for the environment, like adopting to E20 could eventually mean a cleaner environment. So that is important from this perspective also, cleaner environment. Then there is also a thing of waste to wealth. So for an example, during the cultivation, the feedstock, the extra feedstock or the byproduct which is generated while growing crops, at that time that is considered as waste. But if we are actually able to utilize it as a biomass for producing the bioethanol, then we are converting the waste to wealth. It not only solve the problem of how to treat the waste, but it also help in generation of wealth. So that component is also satisfied if we are moving towards the E20. And finally, the employment generation as well. Think about it, that the biorefineries who will be eventually processing the bioethanol, they would require people to do that, right? So that is how the even the employment generation will pick up if we are going for the E20 route. So these are the various advantage, and if you really look at from that perspective, it is actually going to be beneficial. There is nothing which is apart from the few concerns which comes from the fact that maybe, because I just told you that corn and sugarcane are the one which is required to produce the ethanol. For an example, these two crops are generally used. So in that case, would these food which are actually used for eating also, for food also, would lead in the food inflation? That is one of the concern, one of the major concern which goes against this bioethanol program. But apart from that, this is actually going to be very beneficial, and that is to a major extent has been like taken care by the government. So as of now, you can understand going ahead with mixing of ethanol is good. One more important factor for you to remember is that various study has says that no that blending of ethanol has no side effect on the working of the engine. So it's not like if you are using pure petrol versus you are using the petrol which has ethanol blended it in, so working of the engine does not get affected, which is like really good. So the people who are wary of that their car will go into wear and tear, that will also not happen. So this is a really good proposal. Now let's just quickly also look into the national policy on biofuels which came in 2018 and which kind of provide the major guidelines on how the biofuels in India need to go forward. So it expanded the scope of raw material for ethanol production. So apart from the sugar cane, sugar beet, for an example, starch production, all the other sources from where it could be taken care of. In fact, even the rotten potatoes or broken rice, rotten potato, broken rice, all these were included in the list, and from which the ethanol could actually produce from. So they could be treated as a raw material for the ethanol production apart from the sugarcane and corn which was like traditionally used. It allows use of surplus food grains for production of ethanol for blending with petrol with the approval of National Biofuel Coordination Committee. So there is this National Biofuel Coordination Committee. If it gives the approval that okay, the production is surplus and it will go to waste, so that surplus food grains could also go into the production of ethanol. But very importantly, it has to be approved by this committee, otherwise food grains cannot be converted into a raw material for ethanol. Then setting up of a supply chain mechanism for biodiesel production from non-edible oilseed, used cooking oil, short gestation crops. So that is also one of the things going forward. In fact, this is something your homework. You can drop the comments in the comment section of this video that what is 2G and 3G generation fuel. So this is something you must have heard in the various articles. So tell me, what is 2G and 3G fuel? Basically, these are mostly along the line that how we can divert the production of oil from the food stock, but they are not directly the food stock. Non-edible oil seeds, for an example. Major crop associated with is Jatropha. So all these things are important, and these things are mentioned in the National Policy on Biofuels 2018. So if you really look at from the perspective of environment, this is really good. If you look at from the perspective of economy also, this is good. So going forward, the target of India should be 20% and we should be able to achieve it. Just one statistic which you could write when you're writing your mains answer is that till 2019, the blending percent in India was about 5.86 percentage. So we have been able to reach only 5.86 percentage of mixing or blending of ethanol into the oil, automobile oil, till 2019. And just so you know, the target is by 2022 it has to be 10%, by 2030 it has to be 20%. So this is the whole thing. I hope you have understood this video. If you have any doubt, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you.